Chosen one, lock your attention on this message right now. That quiet ache sitting in the back of your chest, the one that doesn't have a name, I need you to stop running from it for the next few minutes. Something shifted this week, not outside of you, inside of you. Inside of you. And you felt it, but you didn't trust it. Maybe you dismissed it as exhaustion. Maybe you told yourself you were imagining things. But deep in the part of you that doesn't lie, something registered, something landed, something that has been trying to reach you for years finally broke through the noise and you received it, and heaven responded. That is why you are here right now. That is why this message found you today and not 6 months ago, not a year from now. Because for the first time in a long time, you are finally ready to hear what God has been trying to say. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment that was written before the foundations of the earth were laid, scheduled for this exact moment, this exact day, this exact version of you that finally gets it. Do not click away. Your future self is watching this moment with tears in their eyes because they know what this moment cost you and what it unlocks. If you leave now, you leave before you hear the verdict. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. There has been a strange stillness around you, not peaceful, tender. Like the quiet after a long storm finally passes and you step outside and the air feels different and you realize you made it through something you were not sure you would survive. Maybe you were sitting alone this week, in the dark, or in the middle of a room full of people, and something cracked open inside of you. Not broke, cracked open. The way a seed cracks before it becomes what it was always meant to be. Maybe you finally let go of something you had been carrying for years. Maybe you stopped fighting a thought that needed to land. Or maybe you simply got on your knees and said the most honest, unpolished prayer of your entire life. No performance, no presentation, just you and God in the rawest moment you have had in years. And heaven went silent for just a second. And then it erupted. The enemy is working overtime right now for one reason and one reason only. He sees what just happened in the spirit. He knows that the moment you finally received what God has been trying to deposit in you, a sequence was activated that he cannot reverse. So he has been flooding your mind since that moment with doubt, with questions, with the whisper that says it was not real, that you imagined it, that someone like you does not get to experience something like that. But I need you to understand something. The intensity of the attack after a tender moment is not evidence that nothing happened. It is evidence that everything happened. It all shifts now. The confusion, the distance, the feeling that God was somewhere far away watching you struggle. It ends here because of what you did, not because of your perfection, because of your surrender. Think back to that moment this week when you stopped pretending. When you stopped performing your faith and you just collapsed into it. You did not know it then, but that was the moment. That unpolished, unscripted, undone version of you falling forward into God was the most powerful spiritual act you have performed in years. That was not weakness. That was the weapon that changed everything. You did not fail your way to this moment. You were prepared for it. And in this void between who you were and who you are becoming, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. He has been telling you that your years of struggle were evidence of your distance from God. He has been replaying every moment you gave up, every prayer that felt like it bounced off the ceiling, every time you walked away from the altar unchanged and told yourself you were too far gone or too broken or too complicated for this to work for you. He has been telling you that people like you do not get breakthrough moments like this, that it is for someone more disciplined, more consistent, more worthy. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Zephaniah 3017 says, "The Lord your God is in your midst, a mighty one who will save. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will quiet you by his love. He will exult over you with loud singing." Listen to that. He exults over you with loud singing. Listen to that. He exults over you with loud singing. Not in spite of your broken years. Not after you clean yourself up. Right now, in this moment. In the middle of your unfinished story, God is not sitting on a throne of disappointment. He is celebrating. The years you spent wandering were not years. God spent waiting for you to get it together. They were years. He spent walking with you through terrain that was preparing you for this exact moment of reception. Every detour was a deposit. Every delay was a development. You are not behind. You are right on time. The heaviness you have been carrying is not the weight of failure. It is the weight of what you have survived. And what you have survived has not disqualified you. It has distinguished you. You think the years of struggle mean you are late to your own story. But let me reframe your reality right now. You are not starting over. You are finishing the preparation. And for the first time in years, heaven is not watching you with grief. It is watching you with joy. Because you finally got it. And God is not weeping over what you lost. He is crying happy tears over what you just became. In the next few minutes, I am going to hand you the divine decree that confirms what just happened in the spirit is real and irreversible. I am going to walk you through the exact shift that occurred when you surrendered, so you can see what heaven saw in that moment. And at the end, we are going to seal this new beginning with a declaration that closes the door on the version of you that believed you were too far gone. Stay until the very last second. What just began in you cannot be undone. And that moment, that single sacred moment when something finally clicked inside you, wasn't just a personal victory, it was a divine event. Heaven didn't just notice it, heaven responded to it. Because when one of God's chosen finally stops running, stops hiding, stops pretending they don't feel the weight of the calling on their life, something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere that goes far beyond what we have language for. It's a seismic event in the unseen realm, a cosmic recalibration, a symphony of angels lifting their voices in recognition of a soul finally aligning with its eternal purpose. Imagine the stars pausing their celestial dance, the very fabric of reality holding its breath as a vessel of divine potential finally surrenders to its destiny. This isn't merely a personal realization, it's a world-altering convergence of the earthly and the divine. But before we go any deeper, some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now let's talk about what's really happening here, because most people have completely misread their own story. They've been sifting through the wreckage of their lives, collecting fragments of pain and disappointment, and constructing a narrative of failure. They've interpreted their journey through the shattered lens of what went wrong, focusing on the perceived missteps and the agonizing detours, the endless delays that felt like divine roadblocks, the profound losses that carved canyons in their hearts, the barren seasons where the silence from heaven felt so thick and suffocating it was a tangible presence, a leaden cloak they could barely breathe through. They meticulously catalogued every instance as irrefutable evidence against themselves, evidence that perhaps they were fundamentally too broken, too damaged by the fires of life to ever be truly whole again. Evidence of being too inconsistent, a flickering flame easily extinguished by the slightest breeze of adversity. Evidence of being too far gone, cast adrift on a sea of imperfection, beyond the reach of God's redemptive grace. And this deeply ingrained interpretation didn't materialize from thin air. It was a masterpiece of self-sabotage, painstakingly constructed, layer by agonizing layer, from the debris of every disappointment that arrived without an explanation, every earnest prayer that seemed to dissipate into the indifferent ceiling like smoke, every agonizing moment spent watching others effortlessly step into the very dreams and destinies you believed were intricately woven into the tapestry of your You have been meticulously assembling evidence for a case against yourself, a case that was never intended to be tried. What you didn't realize is that you were reading the blueprint upside down. You were looking at the reverse side of the sacred design, mistaking the shadows for the substance, the scaffolding for the masterpiece. Think about Elijah, not the thunderous, fire-calling Elijah standing defiantly on Mount Carmel, but the broken, defeated Elijah collapsed beneath the meager shade of a broom tree in the desolate wilderness, whispering to God, his voice hoarse with despair, that he'd had enough. That man, that prophet of immense power, didn't find himself in that desolate place because he had failed in his mission. He ended up there precisely because he had just emerged victorious from the greatest spiritual battle of his generation, a colossal confrontation that had shaken the very foundations of the spiritual realm. The sheer unyielding weight of the assignment, the monumental responsibility entrusted to him, had finally collided with the frailties of his humanity, leaving him utterly spent. And what was God's response? Did God unleash a torrent of rebuke? Did God deliver a blistering sermon on the necessity of unwavering faith, or a stern reminder of the divine calling? No. God, in his infinite wisdom and profound tenderness, let him sleep. God, with unparalleled compassion, provided him with sustenance, not once but twice, because sometimes the most profoundly prophetic act heaven can bestow upon a chosen soul isn't a thundering word of affirmation or a new directive. It is, first and foremost, the gentle, loving tending to their deep exhaustion. It's the divine acknowledgement that even the mightiest warriors need a season of rest, a sacred pause to be replenished before the next phase of their sacred work. You have been in that wilderness, and here's what that solitary, often challenging experience truly signifies. It means you have been in the very crucible, the sacred space where God intentionally meets, refines, and prepares the individuals he unequivocally intends to use in extraordinary ways. This is not a place of abandonment, but a sanctuary of spiritual fortification. But here's where it goes deeper, and this is the crucial turning point. The subtle yet monumental truth that most people miss entirely. The breakthrough you have been crying out for, the deliverance you have been yearning for with every fiber of your being, is not located in some distant, undefined future, the way you've been fervently imagining it. You've been picturing it as an external event, something that will eventually arrive, like a long-awaited package delivered to your doorstep, like the inevitable changing of the seasons, like a monumental door that will finally swing open from the outside, beckoning you to enter. But God does not operate like a cosmic delivery service, fulfilling orders on a schedule. He operates like the ultimate master sculptor, and the divine sculpture, the masterpiece of your life, isn't deemed finished when it miraculously arrives at some destination. It is declared complete only when the last unnecessary piece, the final vestige of what no longer serves the divine design, is carefully and deliberately chipped away and falls to the ground. What recently fell away within you, that deeply entrenched pattern you finally stopped wrestling with, that limiting agreement you consciously and prayerfully dissolved, that familiar yet constricting version of yourself you quietly, tenderly, and with immense grace decided to let go of, that, my friend, was the final piece. That was the precise moment the master sculptor's chisel struck the stone for the very last time, revealing the perfection within. And when that piece fell, when that final element detached and hit the floor, God didn't just observe it from a detached, celestial distance. He wept, not tears of sorrow or regret. He wept tears of profound recognition, of deep satisfaction, of pure, unadulterated joy. The way a father weeps with overwhelming pride at his child's graduation, beaming as he witnesses the culmination of years of effort. The way a master creator weeps tears of profound accomplishment when the masterpiece is finally complete, its beauty and perfection fully realized. You were the work, and in this moment, in this divine unveiling, you are complete. And what is unfolding next, the chapter that is poised to begin, will undoubtedly surprise you. It always does. The divine unfolding is rarely linear. It is a breathtaking tapestry of unexpected beauty and divine intervention. Because once you truly internalize and accept that the suffering you have endured was not a form of punishment, you are compelled to confront something even more profound. something that challenges deeply ingrained beliefs. The realization that the suffering was, in fact, divine preparation, not the kind of meticulous preparation that makes logical sense to your human mind in the heat of the moment, not the kind of structured training program you would ever willingly sign up for if presented with the option, but the specific, potent, and transformative kind of preparation that carves something essential and indelible into the very core of your being. Something that no academic classroom, no experienced mentor, and certainly no earthly shortcut could ever have produced. It's a spiritual etching, a divine imprinting. Consider the story of David. He didn't learn the profound arts of kingship while ensconced in the opulent comfort of a palace. He learned them in the raw, unforgiving expanse of a field, utterly alone, with no audience, no applause, diligently defending his father's sheep from the ferocity of lions with nothing but his own bare hands and an unwavering trust in the Almighty. No one penned a ballad about those solitary years of struggle. No ancient scroll meticulously recorded those countless sleepless nights spent on vigilant guard. But God, the omniscient and ever-present Lord, was watching every single moment, every act of courage, every silent prayer whispered into the wind. And every lion David vanquished in that humble field was, in God's divine economy, an act of him enlarging David's capacity, expanding his resilience, and fortifying his spirit for the immense weight of the kingship that lay ahead. The throne was not merely a physical seat of power. It represented an almost unbearable weight of responsibility, a burden of leadership that would test the very limits of his being. And God had to ensure with absolute certainty that the man destined to occupy that throne had already, through divine design, carried burdens far heavier. You too have been carrying immense weights, burdens that would have utterly crushed and broken someone else. And you have been carrying them with a quiet, often unseen, fortitude. And heaven, the celestial realm, has been meticulously observing every single facet of your journey. Every single sleepless night spent wrestling with challenges, every silent moment of courage that went unnoticed by human eyes, every profound instance where you deliberately chose faith when despair offered itself as the infinitely easier, more seductive path to tread. Stay with me, because what I am about to share next is the pivotal revelation, the essential understanding that possesses the genuine power to break the agonizing cycle of stagnation that so many chosen souls find themselves trapped within. The fundamental reason why so many of God's chosen individuals remain perpetually stuck, even after they have diligently undertaken extensive inner work, even after they have received profound spiritual revelations, even after they have extended forgiveness, experienced deep healing, and achieved significant personal growth, is because they are still unconsciously, or perhaps consciously, awaiting external permission to fully embody and walk in the authority that God has already unequivocally granted them, eternally. They are anxiously waiting for a specific person to offer their affirmation. They are seeking a prominent platform to bestow their validation. They are hoping for a particular circumstance to miraculously materialize and confirm their calling. And so they find themselves standing precariously at the very precipice of their own destined breakthrough, fully equipped with divine armor, thoroughly prepared by the trials they've faced, and unequivocally called by the Creator of the universe. And yet they remain frozen, unable to take the essential step forward. This mirrors the profound struggle of Moses at the incandescent spectacle of the burning bush. God had already appeared in a breathtaking manifestation. God had already spoken directly, clearly, and unequivocally. God had already unequivocally named him as the singular individual chosen for the monumental task. And yet Moses stood there, not in defiance, but in a desperate negotiation of his perceived inadequacy, his deep-seated sense of not being enough. This wasn't a testament to his inherent weakness. Far from it. It was the direct consequence of spending 40 arduous years wandering in the unforgiving wilderness, a period during which he had been unconsciously redefining himself as someone inherently small, insignificant, and incapable. His former identity as a prince within the Egyptian palace had been thoroughly stripped away. His complex Hebrew identity, fraught with the trauma of slavery and exile, had been further complicated by his years of self-imposed obscurity. And in the vast, desolate space that existed between the man he had become and the divine emissary God was calling him to be, he became irrevocably stuck in the agonizing question of whether he was, in truth, the one. You too have been asking that same profound question, perhaps not with your voice, but certainly within the deepest recesses of your spirit. Not out loud, perhaps, but in those quiet, introspective moments, in the supple hesitation before you take a decisive step forward, in the persistent second-guessing of the very calling your spirit is most profoundly certain about, in the pervasive tendency to consistently shrink yourself, to contort your divine essence to fit inside the narrow confines of spaces that were never, ever designed to contain your magnificent spiritual stature. God is not waiting for you to somehow become more qualified, to accumulate more accolades, or to pass some unseen celestial examination. He is waiting for you to cease the act of disqualifying yourself, to release the self-imposed limitations that obscure your divine identity. And this leads us directly to something that runs even deeper than the pervasive need for external permission. It is the profound and often terrifying weight of visibility. Because a significant part of what has been unconsciously holding you back is not mere doubt, but the primal terror of being fully seen, fully known, and fully embraced in your God-given power. When you deliberately choose to remain small, you inadvertently choose to remain small. You inadvertently choose to remain safe. When you remain hidden, you believe you remain protected. The wilderness, though often lonely, paradoxically feels like a place of control, a territory you understand. And stepping fully into the magnificent potential of your divine calling, intrinsically means stepping into exposure to scrutiny, to criticism, to profound misunderstanding, and to the relentless kind of spiritual warfare that invariably activates and intensifies only when you emerge as a genuine and potent threat to the encroaching darkness. And here's the part that very few people are willing to acknowledge, let alone hear. A portion of the resistance you have been experiencing, the internal friction that feels so paralyzing, is not solely emanating from the adversarial forces of the enemy. It is originating from within you, from that deeply ingrained part of yourself that understands, with an undeniable certainty, that once you fully and irrevocably step forward into your destiny, there is simply no possibility of ever returning to the comfortable, familiar, and ultimately limiting version of your life. The version where your vast potential remains merely a theoretical concept, an abstract idea. The version where your sacred calling exists as a beautiful, ethereal notion that you carry privately, like a cherished secret held only between you and your Creator. But God is crying those ecstatic happy tears precisely because that comfortable hidden version of you is now irrevocably ending. Because what is burgeoning forth, the profound spiritual shift that is already powerfully in motion, necessitates and demands a version of you that cannot and will not remain hidden any longer. And coming up is the transformative revelation that will finally illuminate precisely why everything that has consistently felt like it was working against you was, in fact, divinely orchestrating itself to work profoundly for you all along, hidden underneath everything you've just received. Like precious jewels buried beneath layers of earth, is a truth so profoundly counterintuitive, so radically different from the prevailing narrative, that most people, in their haste and their adherence to conventional wisdom, simply walk right past it, completely unaware of its transformative power. The very experiences and aspects of your journey that you have carried with a deep sense of shame. The undeniable failures, the numerous false starts that felt like dead ends, the prolonged seasons where your faith appeared to be nothing more than a desperate, precarious act of barely holding on. Those are not mere footnotes to your magnificent testimony. They are, in fact, the very essence of the testimony itself. Not because God finds celebration in human collapse, but because the individuals chosen for his most sacred assignments are not commissioned from positions of inherent perfection or unblemished history. They are commissioned from the sacred, intimate ground of profound connection and deep relational experience with him. And true intimacy with God is almost always forged not in the sterile, unyielding comfort of ease, but in the purifying, transformative fire of adversity. The Apostle Paul, whose epistles form the bedrock of so much of our faith and have profoundly shaped the course of human history, did not pen those world-altering letters from a place of personal ease or unburdened tranquility. He wrote them from the harsh, confined reality of a Roman prison. And the undeniable authority, the spiritual gravitas, and the transformative power resonating within those sacred words did not originate from his rigorous theological training or his intellectual prowess. They stemmed from the fact that he had encountered the living God in such a profound, life-shattering way that it had obliterated every previous version of his identity, systematically dismantling his old self and rebuilding him from the very foundation up. His perceived weakness, his profound suffering, became the very vessel, the perfect container for the manifestation of divine power. Not in spite of the immense suffering he endured, but precisely because of it. His scars became his credentials. Your story possesses that same powerful divine architecture. And here's the truly unexpected part of this revelation, the element that has the power to completely reframe your entire perspective on your life's journey. The primary obstacle that has been most powerfully blocking your progress, hindering your forward momentum, is not external fear. It is not pervasive doubt. It is not even the calculated assignment of the enemy aimed directly at your life. It has been, and often still is, your own unacknowledged and unprocessed grief over the profound metamorphosis you have had to undergo, the person you were necessitated to become in order to arrive at this very moment, at this critical juncture, because the version of you that was destined and fully equipped to seamlessly walk into this glorious next chapter had to be painstakingly constructed, piece by agonizing piece, from the very ruins and remnants of every previous version of yourself that simply could not survive the crucible of the process. And somewhere within the depths of your being, there resides a lingering mourning, a quiet sorrow for the person you once envisioned yourself becoming, the idealized timeline you had meticulously charted for your life, the cherished relationships you had held an unwavering conviction would endure forever, the seemingly open doors that, in hindsight, were divinely designed to close, redirecting your path. You have been unconsciously holding on to a profound weight of grief, a sorrow that you were never truly meant to carry this far, this long. And God is not asking you to perform an act of denial, to pretend that the losses you have experienced were not real or did not matter. He is gently, yet firmly, asking you to release it. Not because those experiences lacked significance, but because it is a divine impossibility to simultaneously carry the immense weight of everything you have miraculously survived and extend your hands, open and ready, to receive the totality of everything He has so lovingly and meticulously prepared for you. Your hands cannot remain perpetually full of what once was and simultaneously be open to embrace the boundless potential of what is and what is yet to come. The happy tears God is shedding are not solely about the destination, the glorious future that awaits you. They are profoundly about the person you have exquisitely become in the arduous yet purposeful process of getting there. They are about the unshakable character that has been forged in the fires of trial, the boundless compassion that has been tenderly cultivated through shared pain and understanding, the profound wisdom that can only ever be earned through lived experience and never ever borrowed or learned from a textbook. You are not arriving at this new chapter empty-handed, devoid of preparation. You are arriving with absolutely everything you need, meticulously gathered and divinely appointed, and heaven has been a silent, devoted witness to the entire journey, meticulously accounting for every single step taken, every profound sacrifice made, every moment of complete surrender offered. Place your hand upon your heart, feel its steady rhythm, the life force within you, and declare this truth with me, with unwavering conviction. I release every label that was inaccurately placed upon me by people who lacked the divine vision to see what heaven truly sees within me. I release the profound grief associated with the timelines and versions of my life that did not ultimately survive the divine process. I release the lingering shame of those difficult seasons where I merely managed to make it through, often by the slimmest of margins. I decisively break agreement with every insidious lie that has ever whispered that I was simultaneously too much and not nearly enough. I fully receive and embrace the life-altering truth that my suffering was never a punishment, but an indispensable and sacred preparation. I receive the overwhelming fullness of the divine calling that was placed upon my life long before I ever drew my first breath. I step forward now with unshakable resolve, not because I possess all the answers, for that is not required, but because I have been divinely commissioned by the one who holds all answers and possesses absolute authority. I am no longer waiting for external permission to live my truth. I am no longer waiting for the validation of circumstances or individuals. I now walk confidently in what God has already internally authorized within me, and I place my complete trust in the divine timing, knowing that every door aligned with my highest destiny will swing open at precisely the appointed, perfect moment. I am seen, I am chosen, I am profoundly ready, and from this sacred day forward, I will carry myself with the inherent dignity, purpose, and power of the magnificent being I have become. If this message has resonated deeply within the core of your spirit, if it has touched a place of profound recognition and awakening, share it immediately with another soul who you intuitively know needs to hear these liberating truths right now. Leave a single word in the comments below. Just one word that encapsulates the divine stirring, the sacred revelation that God has awakened within you today. Your testimony, shared authentically, might be the precise spark of hope that keeps someone else from surrendering to despair tonight. And if you haven't already done so, make sure to follow this page, to subscribe to this channel, because there is so much more transformative revelation poised to be unveiled, and you absolutely do not want to miss a single word of what God is about to speak through this sacred, growing space.